From Fury infuriatingly claiming Paul to be an unprofessional fighter, to Paul not wanting to settle without a rematch. Here's how Tommy Fury made a very risky promise to defeat a player much bigger than Jake Paul. It looks like the man's got some big dreams. In fact, he'd rather fight someone else than have a rematch with Jake. Tommy managed to defeat his opponent via a split decision in February. And trust me, fans had been dying to witness this fight for a very long time. Both of them had been up for a fight twice before, all ready to just go at each other and wreak havoc. But both of those fights ended up being canceled.
That Jake is throwing, he's got the right hand in front of his face so that he doesn't get hit. He's dipping down a little.
The first time around, Fury had an injury that rendered him incapable of the fight. And the second time around, they had only travel issues to blame. The two finally had a match in Saudi Arabia, and Fury had a clear-cut win thanks to the judge's decision.
By split decision, Tommy TNT.
And while many people would have probably seen this coming, Jake was devastated. Of course, the man got his ego super hurt, and after the match, both of them agreed to have a rematch. But it seems that Fury has had a full-on change of heart. While appearing on Soccer AM, he suggested that he could fight someone else instead of Paul. But he clarified that it doesn't mean he's scared of him.
Go in this fourth round, Tommy Fury looks to be very relaxed inside the ring against Jake Paul.
He stated that he was more than willing to participate in the rematch. In fact, he said he would fight him again the very next day. But he questioned whether Paul actually intends to fight him again or not. He wondered if his opponent would be brave enough to take him on once again. But in case he isn't, Tommy suggested he could fight someone a lot more challenging than him. Still, this isn't all. There's another major reason why the fighter just doesn't want to go in for a rematch with Jake. Fury finds him excessively difficult to fight. And no, it's not because the dude gives him any good challenges.
The problem child. Now it is Jake Paul landing clean. And let's also remember that Jake Paul.
He admitted that fighting the YouTube star is difficult because he doesn't act like a legit experienced fighter. In fact, Tommy insisted that it would be easier for him to fight someone who is a lot more professional in his ways. The fighter knew that Paul is a big, buff man, and there's basically nothing he lacks when it comes to strength. But what really blows the deal is the fact that the YouTube star lacks any sort of real skill.
Land. Yeah, neither man has yet hit 20 punches.
And seeing how Tommy felt that his opponent didn't know what he was doing, he probably got bored out of his mind. Because, in his opinion, literally anyone can enter the ring and start a fight. But it's different when you've got an equal up against you.
Big right hand or two. Give that point away if it's a close fight. That's a big right hand.
I mean, there's a big reason why Fury thinks that Jake doesn't know how to fight. He literally called the guy erratic while explaining his fighting style. It seemed like the fighter truly disliked being in the ring with a YouTube star, especially because the way he recalled it. The dude would just be throwing punches from all sorts of different angles, and it seemed like he had no idea what he was actually doing.
And he turned the tables. Again, the movement is what's made
Fury.
It's almost like playing Tekken, where you just smash all the control buttons at once. But for Fury, it makes all the difference when a player actually knows what move one needs to pull at a certain point. To him, Jake is a super awkward fighter. And though Tommy would kill for a real professional challenge, this is the kind of challenge that makes him feel like he's putting up with a little kid. Honestly, the frustration was hitting some brand new limits with this guy, especially because of the constant delays in the fights that they were supposed to have. And Tommy hated the fact that it all looked like it was his fault. It was just the unpredictability of circumstances that wasn't letting them go along with their set schedule. And the fact that two fights ended up being rescheduled was really getting to the fighter. He knew that he could beat Paul in an instant, and there was no doubt about that among the fans either. But he felt like the cancellation of the fights made it look like he was somehow scared of it. And of course, who could imagine Tommy letting the circumstances affect his reputation? He said that he really felt the pressure when the fight was being set, but when it came to the night of the fight, he was literally devoid of any feeling at all. He was at that stage where things just got too much for him, and seeing how stressful this experience with Paul was for him from start to finish, it may explain why he just doesn't want to go ahead with a rematch anymore. In fact, it seems like Fury's dad is already making the arrangements to push Jake to the side, because John Fury has been in some pretty interesting talks with KSI. The Fury-Paul rematch that had been planned for this summer might not happen. After all, the tide seems to be turning, and sooner than later, Tommy might just find the bigger player he had vowed to fight from the beginning. But on top of taking Paul's place in the match that should have been his, KSI insulted Paul following his defeat to Fury, which was way out of pocket. I mean, think about it. YouTube rivals would draw a tremendously large online audience if they ever met each other. But the bad blood aside, KSI might be the fighter that Tommy seems to be in the mood to fight. He has 3 professional fights under his belt, but he still has to face his toughest opponent yet, Joe Fournier, on May 13th at Wembley Arena. Imagine, the stakes will get so much higher if he ends up winning that match. After all, Tommy Fury versus KSI has the potential to be one of the greatest fights of the year. Despite the rapper-turned-boxer's upcoming battle, Fury's father told Mirror Fighting that talks with KSI's reps have already started. He mentioned that he's left the entire Paul rematch situation to his lawyers. His talks with the Sauerland brothers seem to be turning out more fruitful than he thought, and after having a meeting with them, he thinks that there's a huge chance that KSI might agree to a match with Tommy. In fact, the father suggested that whoever else wants to have a match with Tommy can contact them and get it done. But there's still that pending situation of the rematch with Jake, which he doesn't even see as important enough. He said that he doesn't deal with it, but he's pretty sure that the fight can be canceled and a new fight be scheduled in its place. Something that will bring his son some real, significant challenge in the ring. But if you think that Paul's gonna rest without this match, you're probably wrong. This man might force his way into a rematch if he has to. His heart was probably in shambles when he lost the match to Fury. And after getting all sorts of names by the guy who defeated him so painfully, it's obvious that his emotions are probably too riled up for him to let go of the rematch. It's his final chance to redeem himself. But there's a slight chance his attention might be diverted toward another player. Pretty recently, he challenged Floyd Mayweather to a real fight after he was ambushed by the boxer in Miami. And there's a chance that in the middle of all this drama, he'll just forget about the damage the Fury fight did. I say this because he's already pretty carefree. It seems like he's been living his best life after shutting up all those haters by defeating Jake Paul in their boxing match. I mean, who wouldn't want to enjoy the sweet taste of victory? Am I right? But get this, Tommy has been doing more than just celebrating his big win. In fact, he's been putting on some serious weight, a whopping 3 stone in less than 2 months. Here's everything you had to know about Fury's vow to defeat someone bigger than Jake Paul.